These little cones are so quick and so fun to make, and they're not just for Christmas time. You could use these at Easter or birthdays or any kind of celebration where you want to decorate but maybe add a few gifts inside there as well. You can make them in different sizes. You can make 4 from a circle so they don't actually take up very much fabric, and I've decorated mine in different ways as well. I've got quite a large collection, if you will, of ribbons and ric-rac and lace. You could add buttons if you wanted to, so it's a great way of going through your stash, through your baskets and your boxes full of bits and bobs, and just pulling out a few little bits and bobs to decorate them with. But as I said, very quick, very easy to make. Here's how you do it. I've already cut out 2 12-inch circles of fabric. Now from each complete circle you'll be able to make 4 cones. Make these as large as you like, but when you consider the size of your cone is going to be a quarter and then wrapped around, that's the kind of size of the finished cone. So I wouldn't go too much smaller than 12 inches to be honest, but you could make these a lot bigger if you wanted to. I've already fused my H640 onto the wrong side of the outer fabric. I think you will need some kind of interfacing on there just to give it a bit of stability, otherwise you're going to have a floppy cone. So any kind of stabilizer interfacing, a medium kind of weight will be absolutely fine for that. And then I've also been through my ribbon and lace boxes, and I've just been picking out ribbons that match, and a little bit of ric-rac and a little bit of lace. You'll need ribbon to hang it up with, but I'm going to put some ribbon trim around these and make all of them slightly different. First thing we're going to do is to cut our quarters. So I'm just folding the fabric in half and then in half again, and then we'll cut. And then cut again in the opposite direction. So I've got 4 quarters of a circle. Okay, so I'm just using 1 for now. And then let's do the same with the outer fabric. Now I've already put the fleece on here, so it may not crease quite as easily without a little bit of a press. You could of course measure this on your cutting mat if you wanted to. I just tend to find creasing makes it a little bit easier. That's fine. And then in this direction. You could make a little mark with a pen if that makes it easier for you. And again we'll cut this into quarters, because remember we're making 4. So let's just deal with 1 at the moment. Just put my mat down. So this is going to be the outside of my complete cone. I'm going to embellish it first of all and put the little strap on there. And I'm not going to sew this. I'm going to glue it. So I'm going to put the lace around there, not too close to the edge because I will have a seam allowance there of 1/4 inch. And just a little tip for you. Don't go, if you're using a ribbon, don't go for a ribbon that's too thick because it won't curve, it'll gather. However, you could gather the ribbon and make a frill around there, couldn't you? Now if you wanted to sew this, that's absolutely fine. I just thought I'd go for the quick option by gluing it. This isn't anything that's ever going to go in the wash, so I've got no problems at all in just using a little bit of glue and try and keep that the same distance from the top all the way across. And then I can put my lace on. So I do want to make sure that the ends of the lace are the same distance from the ends. So I'm just going to fold that over to make sure. I think that looks rather nice. So on top of my lace, I'm going to put some ric-rac. Just on the edge of the lace and the fabric. And one of the reasons I like to glue when I can, which isn't it isn't because it's quick, it's because it looks neater, I think, particularly when you're using ric-rac, because you see the stitch right down the centre. So of course when you're gluing there's no stitching, so you just get a nice clean finish. So just along the top, I mean, carry on with as many layers and different types of ribbons and embellishments as you like. I think I'm just going to leave it at that and chop the ends off, and I'll just leave this for a minute or so until the glue dries. While I'm waiting, I'm going to cut a piece of, I think, the check ribbon for a handle, and I'll leave that to dry there. I'm going to put this on here. So let's fold this over so I can gauge exactly where I need to put them. So I'm going to have the seam at the back, so I'm just overlapping this in the centre. In fact, let's do this. So there's my centre. I'm going to overlap and crease here, just overlapping by the seam allowance, which is 1/4 inch, and crease. This doesn't have to be exact. And then I've got a point on each side where I can put my strap and my little handle. So I'll measure that actually. I think that looks about right, which is 11 inches long. And this is going to go facing downwards over that crease line, and try to make sure that that's not twisted. So just literally so close to the edge within the seam allowance. Fold that around and back over this side. So that's done. My glue should be dry now. That doesn't take very long. So let's put these two pieces right sides together, and I'm just going to sew across that curved top edge. I don't think there's any need to pin that. And then we'll open this out. I'm going to push that inside so I don't sew over it, and turn this so that the edges meet and my lace and ric-rac matches and my seams match. And I'm going to sew all the way across the outside, a little way down the lining, stop, leave a gap, and then sew up to the point. Then I can turn the whole thing through my turning gap. Oh, I'm just going to snip off the point actually and cut down on the bulk there. And let's turn all of this through. So I'm just going to use a little point turner to push out the point of the cone. Then I have the hole in the back here, so I'll need to sew that closed, and I'm just going to do that on my sewing machine. You could do that by hand if this is going to be something that you're selling. Then maybe you'd like that a little bit of a neater finish. And then we'll push this inside, and again use my point turner to really push that down. I think I'll just give that a press around the top. You could top stitch that if you wanted to. And that is one little cone finished. So I think I'll carry on and make a few more of these. They're the kind of size that you could easily hang on a tree, or you could add numbers to them and make an maybe advent calendar bunting out of them. But they're really quick. I think they're really sweet, and I think you're going to enjoy making them as well. I'll see you again next time.